Only, episode 7. Sorry for the loud claps there. Drop something. Thank you for being here. It's Tuesday night. It's 7 p.m. That means it's CFB Only time. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you for being here live. If you're watching after, thanks for watching after. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, wherever you get your podcast, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube as well. Very happy to be here. We got a packed show tonight. We're going to talk about top 5 stadiums I want to visit. So stadiums I've never been to that I think I should get in there, and I'm really excited to see one day. I will get there. I'm going to be one of those guys that eventually sees them all. One day, don't know when, maybe this season, maybe next, maybe 10 years down the road. Eventually, I will see them all. I will be that guy. After that, we're going to do our Texas A&M and Notre Dame schedule reviews. Again, got another SEC packed one, and we're going to talk about Notre Dame's not so packed one. Not a lot of hitting points on that one. And then we're going to wrap up. There were some comments made by Steve Sarkisian in an article with Chris Lowe at On3 that I thought was very interesting. So wanted to bring those up. Got to talk about that a little bit. So got a jam-packed show tonight. Excited to talk about it. Before we do all of that, as always, I'm just going to ask, make sure you give us a follow on Instagram and TikTok. If you're not following, you're missing out. There's great content each and every day on there, at least 3 to 4 times a week, 3 to 4 times a day, 20 to 30 times a week. We've got the Snack Madness Final Four going on if you've been paying attention to that. So follow us on Instagram and TikTok. Subscribe to the YouTube. Thank you for being here. And let's get into the show, into what you're really here for. Let's talk some college football. All right, first subject that I've got, stadiums that I want to visit someday. So, there's a lot of people out here in the college football universe that have been to a lot of stadiums. I was thinking about, in terms of college football stadiums that I've been to, obviously I'm a Georgia fan, so I've been to Sanford Stadium, more times than I can count. I've been to Tuscaloosa, Bryant-Denny Stadium. I've been there, went there last year in that crazy Georgia-Alabama game. I've obviously been to Bobby Dodd Stadium, Georgia Tech. I've been to Williams-Brice, South Carolina. And I believe in terms of college football stadiums, that is where it ends for me, which is sad. I've been in a lot of pro stadiums, obviously Mercedes-Benz Stadium. I've been in Miami's Hard Rock Stadium, which, okay, you can count Miami's football stadium as well. I've been in Tampa Stadium. So I've been in a couple different stadiums, but in terms of college football, I've only been in a select few. So I put a list together. I put 5 stadiums together that, in my opinion, if I got to go see stadiums and I had to pick, we'll give you 5 to go to this year. These are the 5 I'd want to go see. Now, just a preference real quick, there may be a little bias towards some schools in the South here that aren't necessarily the biggest stadiums. They're up there. They're pretty big, but they're not the biggest stadiums. That's not what it's about, though. I'm not just listing the 5 biggest stadiums I've never been to and being like, yep, that's where I want to go. This is the 5 stadiums I want to go to. So without further ado, here is the list. All right, give you a second to look at it. I'll take a sip of water. And if you're watching on YouTube, you already know the list. If you're listening on podcast, let's go ahead and talk about it as I reshuffle through my notes because I was on the wrong page here. All right, number 5, I've got the Swamp. All right, now I'm a Georgia fan. Florida Gators, not really a big fan of. I'm not going down there just because I want to watch the team. But from all the videos and all the pictures, and like I said, I've never been down there, so can't really make a judgment call. But that stadium looks like it is on top of the field in a way that, and what I'm trying to say is, you feel like you are on the field. That's what it looks like, at least. And I believe the stadium capacity is 88,000, so it's still very up there. It's not in the 90,000. Florida might want to upgrade that a little bit, but it literally looks like you are looking over, maybe like a sky cam view. It looks like those seats are, and it gives off this vibe of, it's the most college stadium of college stadiums. The orange walls everywhere, and it looks like you're in a video game on there, at least on TV. Like, I want to see what it's like in there because, I wouldn't probably get along with a lot of the fans there. Maybe I would. But I really just want to see what that atmosphere is like. And a lot of this list is because I just want to see their atmosphere. I know a lot of Florida fans, and Georgia and Florida don't ever get to play each other in their home stadiums. I'm sure a lot of Florida fans that, don't live up here in Georgia who have never been to a Georgia game would like to see the Sanford Stadium and see what that's like. Maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong. But I have an itch to want to get down to the Swamp one day. Now, again, probably not going to be against Georgia, but a Florida LSU game, a Florida State game, a Florida Alabama, Florida Tennessee. Like, that seems like a very good experience, and I just want to see what it's like. Basically, doing a sky cam view on the field because it seems like you're within 10 feet of the field no matter where you sit at the Swamp. Let me know if I'm wrong. Number 4, I got Jordan-Hare Stadium, 88,043 seats, so a little bit smaller than the Swamp. Look, there's a curse, right, at Jordan-Hare Stadium. It seems like anytime you go there, Georgia just this past year went there and had this crazy scare. Alabama's always gone there and had scares. I want to feel the curse. That's why they're on this list. I want to feel that stadium in the wrath. That's another stadium that when I've looked at tickets for it, before, trying to contemplate going to it before, it doesn't look like there's that bad of a seat in the house. So that's another good talking point there. But I just really want to figure out what the curse is at Jordan-Hare Stadium, and I don't know what it could be because Auburn fans are some of the softest people I know. But there's something in the air, and I want to feel it. I maybe want to put it in a jar, put it in a mason jar, bring it home with me, and put it in my room and say this is what it's at, Jordan-Hare, and this is why it feels it. Maybe when I open it, you hear like these loud screeches or something, or maybe something. But I need to know what's in that stadium because I don't get it. Why does everybody who goes there just makes it hard? And a lot of people will say, Auburn hasn't really won that many games there recently. That's not what it's about. It's not what it's about. The atmosphere, the stadium, okay? There's something going on there. Whether they win or they lose, there's something going on there. And that's what I want to see. Number 3, I got Neyland Stadium. So 3 SEC teams in a row. 101,915 seats. When they split that T, I've seen it on TV, when they split that T, okay, and Tennessee fans also, some of the most insane fans in the world, that would just be rowdy. Like, I couldn't imagine being there for that Georgia-Tennessee game early this season, or not early this season, but last season when Gunner hit that throw, then we get a 2-point, then they missed a field goal. Like, that place must have been, you could probably hear a pin drop in there. Like, but when it's loud, it's loud. And it is a stadium that looks like it is a tower. Like, it looks like they have like 6 levels to it. Those might be some bad seats if you're up at the top of there. Like, you're not seeing much. You're probably, with the kind of eyesight I got, you might be looking at mice on the field. So maybe that's a little concern, but it's one of the biggest stadiums out there. It's I think the second biggest stadium in the SEC. Second or third, if I'm not mistaken. So it just looks like a really good time. And Rocky Top, I'm not going to cap. I think it's kind of a catchy song. Like, I like the rhythm of the Rocky Top. I'm not going to start singing it right here. But, Georgia always makes good at it, and it slows it down and, makes it sound like a murder mystery song, whenever we beat them. But there's some tradition at Tennessee, and those fans are insane, and I think it'd be awesome. And I've heard good things about it. I've heard people that have gone there and say it's awesome. So, all right, number 2, I got the Big House. First Big Ten team on the list, the only Big Ten team on the list, Michigan Stadium, 107,601 seats. It's the 3rd largest stadium in the world, if you guys didn't know that. Biggest stadium in the United States, 107,000. That one also, it looks like on TV, like there's not even like a second level. It's like the Rose Bowl kind of, like everything you just have one big circle that just goes around. I don't really know how it works. I'm sure there's sections and levels to it, but who doesn't want to go to the biggest stadium in the world or in the United States? Not the biggest stadium, 3rd in the world. I mean, just to be able to say you got to go there would be awesome. And it's obviously the biggest one in college football. I mean, going to see a Michigan-Ohio State game in the snow, or just a Michigan anybody, I'd be fine with seeing anybody, but just to see the tradition of it, them running out. I believe their locker rooms are like in the middle. They come out from the middle of the field. They tap the banner. Like, those are things that have been going on for a long, long time and look pretty neat. So I think Michigan Stadium, the Big House, is the only one I'm going to give a tip my cap to in the Big Ten. Obviously, when I'm talking about other, like Ohio Stadium, Beaver Stadium, where Penn State plays, like, those got some juice, but they're not the biggest stadium in the world. And number one, I've got Tiger Stadium / Death Valley. 102,321 people can fit into that stadium. And really, if we're just going to be honest here, suck that Tiger dick, bitch. That's what I want to hear. I don't care what else happens while I'm in that stadium. If I get to hear that, LSU wins, loses, preferably wins. I've never really met a lot of LSU fans in my life, but if I could meet one and they'd want to bring me into that stadium and we got to sing "Suck That Tiger Dick Bitch" and we saw Paul Skeens and Livy Dunn and like, that'd be awesome. I wouldn't ask for much more. And you just hear about it. They call it Death Valley for a reason. Like, it just seems like it's one of the scariest places to be if you're the opposing team. And I want to feel these atmospheres. More than anything, I want to feel the atmosphere of what these stadiums are like. And so that's what I've got, number one. So number 5, the Swamp. Number 4, Jordan Hare. Number 3, Neyland Stadium. Number 2, the Big House. And number 1, Death Valley. Maybe some honorable mentions. DKR for Texas, just because it's really big, and you're in Texas, and I've never been to Texas. They say everything's bigger out there. Kyle Field, like, that seems like kind of like some new blood of a stadium. It doesn't seem like it's kind of been like that for a long time. So, I wasn't really thinking that hard about it. Obviously, like I mentioned, Beaver Stadium, Ohio Stadium, those would be cool, but maybe a little cold, so I'm not really chilling like that. But yeah, these are just stadiums that I hopefully very soon we'll get into, and so I want to visit those. Those are my top 5. I'm sure everybody's got a certain list. The Rose Bowl, something to think about, but you're not really going there for UCLA. You're only going there for the Rose Bowl. So from there, all right. Next thing, Texas A&M. Just talked about their field for a second, Kyle Field, and now I'm going to talk about their 2026 schedule, which it's an SEC one, and in terms of the SEC schedules, this one's pretty backloaded. I'm not going to say it's easy. None of them are easy, but it's pretty backloaded. Like, things are manageable from September to October, and in November, that's when things get a little wild for Texas A&M. So they need to manage this first half of the schedule very well. That's all I'm going to tell you. They need to. Like, it's not a want, it's a need. Like, they need to win a lot of these first couple games. All right, let's pull it up. Week 1, Missouri State. They've, if you didn't know, Missouri State just joined the FBS last season, 2026, 2025. They joined in 2025. So this first time, Texas A&M and Missouri State are going to play each other. So good for them. I'm going to love week 1 with all these awesome, boringly awesome matchups, I guess. All right, week 2, they welcome in Arizona State to Kyle Field. So these two have played once before in 2015. The game was in Houston, so probably in NRG Stadium. A&M won that game. I think I remember, like, Speedy Noyle was on A&M during then. I think that may have still been some Kenny Trill years, if you remember him, for Texas A&M. Arizona State, they're in a little bit of a weird situation, right? They just lost Sam Levitt. It looks like Cutter Boley, the Kentucky quarterback, will be their potential starter coming up in 2026, which I don't really know what to think about that. I mean, he's leaving Kentucky to go to Arizona State. Hope Kenny Dillingham is an offensive guy, so maybe things will work out for him. But, Arizona State had a tough time on the road at Mississippi State last year. So how are they going to handle this environment? Not sure. Last 2 years, they're 0-2 against SEC teams. Well, maybe that's not accurate. They probably made Mississippi State in 2024 in the regular season. But last 2 SEC teams they played, they've lost 2. So need to figure that one out. I think Texas A&M, this is what I'm saying about the manageable schedule. Like, yes, they play a Power 4 out-of-conference team. Should be able to win that one at home. And then, week 3, they play Kentucky at home. So, Cutter Boley's old team, they're playing Kentucky funny enough, only second time these two teams are playing as SEC opponents. Overall, A&M should be 10 times better than Kentucky. You can't lose either week 2 or week 3 if you're Texas A&M. Like, before I said this is a manageable schedule. Week 2, Arizona State. Week 3, Kentucky. There's no reason to lose either of those games. Because if you do, you're going to put yourself in a tight spot going forward. So they should, both those games at home against should be lesser talent. They should have a great packed out crowd behind them. Maybe one of them is a night game. I would probably lean more toward Arizona State being a night game, if anything. But we'll see. Week 4 at LSU. Okay? Now, funny enough, they did play at LSU last year, and that was Brian Kelly's last game. This will be a different team. LSU will be coming off the Ole Miss game. So that's just something to think about. They win this game. So we talk about week 2, week 3. They've handled those, mildly tough games that they may have against Arizona State and Kentucky. And then they win at LSU, they're off to the races. I mean, they're 4-0. If you're watching on YouTube, the rest that until we get to late October, we're sailing. So if they can go on the road, which this will be their first road game of the season at LSU, how will they handle that? Who knows? We'll have to wait and find out. But that could be a big one. If they can win at LSU, be 4-0 at the end of September, they're off to the races. There's going to be a lot of people talking about Texas A&M. Week 5, they get Arkansas. A&M has beat Arkansas the last 4 years in a row. Last year it went back to Fayetteville, and now it's going to go back to College Station. But they used to play this in Jerry's World for like a couple years in a row, and that's because I guess Jerry Jones went to Arkansas and maybe he had some relation to Texas A&M. I don't know, but that was kind of cool, that they did that. They were trying to copy that Georgia, Florida, Jacksonville type deal, but I liked it. So that will not be happening. This game is at Kyle Field. So 4 of the first 5 games are at home, and then at week 6 they go to Missouri. A&M has whipped Missouri the last couple years. Missouri hasn't beaten Texas A&M since 2014, so like early into their SEC entry days was last time Missouri got a win over Texas A&M. Missouri's come up on a lot of these schedules we've talked about. I still don't, I feel neutral on them. I feel like we're going to have just kind of a wait-and-see situation with Missouri. Feels like one of those teams that is constantly just going to be mid. If you had to, they're not going to be any team that they shouldn't beat. And until they do, you kind of just have to keep them at a distance. You don't want to think too highly of them. I've learned that the easy and hard way. In week 7, we've got the Citadel, which these games that you play. I mean, I know everybody complains about the week, November FCS games. These are like mid-season FCS games. That's where I can get behind with a complaint. I think we should not be playing FCS games at all. But if we're going to be playing them, they definitely don't need to be in week 7. That's an issue. That's a very big issue. But anyway, and then week 8, so basically they get a bye week before they go to Alabama. The first time they're playing since 2023. A&M has only beaten Alabama once in Tuscaloosa. That was the famous Johnny Manziel game. They beat them again in College Station. I believe that was 21. Yes, it was 21. Jimbo Fisher was still the head coach. Texas A&M, like I said, after the LSU, the next 3 are easy. So they could be sitting at a point right now where they're 7-0 going to Alabama. Alabama's got a bunch of question marks. A lot of stuff will probably be answered by the time we get through this game. But this is a game you need to circle if you're A&M, LSU, and Alabama. You got all that, and you haven't even took a bye week yet. You kind of get a bye week with the Citadel. So that's huge, I guess. Play Alabama, then they have a bye week in week 9. And now in November, things heat up if you're Texas A&M. They play at South Carolina. Now, usually when Texas A&M came into the SEC in, 2012, they played South Carolina, I believe, pretty much every year. If maybe missed 1 or 2 years, but I'm pretty sure they've played every single season since they've been in the SEC. and it usually is a pretty easy win for Texas A&M. Last 2 years has not been the case. 2 years ago they lost, they got thumped, and then last year they had to have the miraculous 30-0 comeback or 33 comeback, whatever it was. This one's going to be late in the season. South Carolina's got some big home games late in the season. They play Texas A&M and Georgia late in the season at home. So these are opportunities for Shane Beamer to, keep his job, stamp of approval, wherever they're at for South Carolina. But South Carolina's only beaten A&M twice in the 12, so they played 12 times. So if that makes sense about how many times, maybe missed one season of playing each other. They're going to need to get it done if you're South Carolina. But if you're A&M, you're coming off a bye week, handle business, because it doesn't get any easier, because then Tennessee is coming to Kyle Field. Fourth time they're playing as SEC opponents. I believe I mentioned this last week when talking about Tennessee's schedule. A&M's 2-1. Should be a fun one. Again, I kind of mentioned last week when talking about Tennessee, both these teams are probably going to be in similar situations where they're, I said if A&M can get past LSU and Alabama, more than likely may lose to one of them. Maybe not. Maybe they're the best team in the SEC. But, these two teams are probably going to be in similar scenarios, same record. If I maybe tape this right now, A&M and Tennessee will probably have the same record when they play each other in Week 11 in 2026. Week 12, they go to Oklahoma. This is the first time they're playing Oklahoma since the Cotton Bowl when Johnny Manziel was still the quarterback for Texas A&M. It's an old Big 12 matchup. This is very cool. They're going, to play at South Carolina, then play Tennessee, and then you got to go on the road to play Oklahoma. It doesn't get easier in this November schedule for Texas A&M, and that's why like I said, anything before that bye week is critical. Because there's no way you're not going to slip up in one of these November games. You play Oklahoma, you go 2 on the road, and you finally come home. You play Texas in the last week of the season in Week 13. You have to get revenge. You've lost twice in a row. Don't know what happened back in 20 whatever before they left, but it's been a long time since Texas A&M has beaten Texas. So if you're Texas A&M, the number one mission this year should probably be beat Texas. I think before anything else happens, obviously Texas last year cost you an opportunity to go to SEC championship. You kind of crumbled after that. You couldn't beat Miami. You couldn't beat Miami and you probably maybe wouldn't have to play Miami if it wasn't for Texas last year. So if I'm Texas A&M, that's my number one goal this year. Beat A&M, or beat Texas. We'll find out. All right, next up, Notre Dame 2026 schedule. Not as lively, not as fun to talk about, but I'll figure it out. I've never wavered from anything. Notre Dame's 2026 schedule is, I'm sure you've watched videos before, mine. It's soft. If you're on the internet, I'm sure you know about it. But I will say, looking at this schedule, it's if some of these teams could get their act right, it wouldn't be that bad of a schedule. I'll say that. I will say that. Now, obviously, you could say that about anybody's schedule, but when I pull this list up, it'll kind of make a little bit more sense. So here we go. Week 1, Wisconsin. Now, they're playing this game at Lambeau Field, which is pretty neat. Another stadium I'd love to go to. But they also played in 2021, I believe it was, and they played in Soldier Field. So I don't know what the deal is with them just not wanting to play each other's stadiums, but nevertheless, they're playing this game at Lambeau Field. Wisconsin obviously went big on the transfer portal. This is offseason. They went and got Colton Joseph, the Old Dominion quarterback. Obviously Notre Dame is favored to win a lot of these games. They'll be favored to win this game. They should handle this game. It'd be hard to think that Wisconsin's going to have it all turned around by week 1. But Notre Dame, if you're watching on YouTube, the schedule, man, it's something. But they should handle Wisconsin week 1. They're 1-0. I'm counting on them to win pretty much every one of these games we're going to talk about. Week 2, they play Rice. They are 5-0 all time against Rice. Let's go ahead and assume they're going to be 6-0 all time against Rice. Week 2, or you can't assume that though. They did lose to Northern Illinois a couple years ago. Week 3, Michigan State. So they play Michigan State at home. First time since 2017 these two teams are playing. This is what I'm kind of talking about. Obviously if Wisconsin can get it together like it used to be, if Michigan State could get it together like they used to be. I mentioned that I think last week on the last show when I talked about teams I wish were good at college football. Michigan State's one of those teams, and the fact that Michigan State's going to go play at Notre Dame for the first time in 9 years. I hope Pat Fitzgerald has gotten some good things figured out with Michigan State before then. It just seems like a game that could have some hype if they, were 2-0 and things look nice at Michigan State. Who knows? I don't know. I don't know the ins and outs of Michigan State's roster right now. I do know that Notre Dame is supposed to be one of the better teams in the country. So we'll see how that game matches up. Week 4, they play at Purdue. These two teams play a good amount. Purdue has not won since 2007. These two teams play a lot. I think they've played 12 times since then. I can't remember the exact number. I think there may be some vacated wins as well. But either way, Purdue has not beaten Notre Dame since 2007, and I don't think they're going to win this year either. Poor Purdue, especially with that college basketball loss they had the other day. But again, we're going through the schedule. Wisconsin and Michigan State, I'll give credit. Like, that could have been, if they figured some things out, not that bad of a schedule. Scheduling Purdue, it seems they just play a lot because they can always beat Purdue. All right, week 5, they play at North Carolina. So back-to-back road games here for them. Only one win all time for North Carolina against Notre Dame. And that was in 1960? I think that's what I wrote down. 1960? Long time ago. They had a win in 2008 that was vacated. So they beat Notre Dame in 2008, but it was vacated for, I guess they broke a rule or something. But Notre Dame at UNC, this could maybe be Bill Belichick's big win. This could maybe be Bill Belichick's big win if he beats Notre Dame. Got a couple opportunities, Bill, this year. They play Miami and Notre Dame. This one's at home. Ooh, could you imagine? Bill Belichick beating Notre Dame? Oh, goosebumps. Week 6, they play Stanford. Notre Dame's won 3 years in a row, probably going to be 4. Stanford hasn't beat them in a while since Stanford was a competent program. No notes. Week 7 at BYU. This should be a semi-fun one, but it's almost like, we saw BYU last year whenever they played physically, like teams that could match their physicality or teams that were just, probably better roster-wise. It didn't work out very well for them. In fact, Texas Tech smoked them twice, and I have a feeling that's what Notre Dame's going to do to them. Now, the fact that BYU's at home, maybe that plays in their favor. I have a hard time just, again, March 31st, looking ahead to this game and thinking, BYU might score a touchdown or two, but I don't see them stopping Notre Dame on offense. Like, I think Notre Dame will do whatever they want to do on offense. So, if BYU wants to get back at them for, Notre Dame backing out of the Pop-Tart Bowl, maybe that's where they find that extra juice. Week 8, they got a bye week. Week 9, they play Navy. They've beaten Navy 8 straight times. They play like every year. At one point, I looked at it. At one point, Notre Dame had beaten Navy like 48 straight years in a row, from like 1970 to like 2008 or something like that, which is just, maybe that's 38. Maybe it was 1960 to 2008. Either way, it was a long time. They had beaten them every single year, which that's just got to be exhausting to lose that many times in a row. But again, it's probably the same thing I said about Purdue with Notre Dame. They probably just schedule them every year because they know it's an easy win they can get. That's how it rolls. Then week 10, Miami. They lost last year on the road. Will they do it again this year? Will they lose at home to Miami? This is going to be a fun one. They should be undefeated at this point. Miami should probably be undefeated at this point. You don't. I've talked about this game multiple times on this show already. This is going to be that one that you love the fact that it's late in the season. It's in November. Miami and Notre Dame in the first weekend of November. Doesn't get more beautiful than that. It really doesn't. Week 11, they play Boston College at home. Hoorah. I'm not going to talk about Boston College very much. Week 12, they play SMU. This is the first time they've played SMU since 1989. So it seems like, I don't know exactly when the whole, death penalty happened to SMU, but it seemed like it was around that time. So it's been a while since SMU and Notre Dame have played. This should be interesting. This might be like one of the last scares that Notre Dame can get from a team that isn't dog shit. But Kevin Jennings is still there, so he's had a lot of experience playing at SMU. Cool that Rhett Lashley's been able to keep him there. I just have a hard time. The same thing I say about BYU, I feel for SMU against Notre Dame. Like, they may score some points, but are they going to be able to stop Notre Dame offensively? Like, I don't think so. Just, again, March 31st, 2026, things could change. But I'm just going to guess no right now. And then week 13, they go to Syracuse, the Carrier Dome, to finish the season. You guys know Syracuse plays football in the same stadium that their basketball team plays basketball in? I mean, I'm sure a lot of you knew that, but that's just an insane stat to me. Hope Syracuse and Fran Brown figure it out, though. A lot of people are hating on that guy for making his team run suicides or whatever after the game last year. I love the guy. I hope things work out for him. They haven't won a game since they beat Clemson in like week 4 last year, so maybe they'll hope Syracuse wins that one. I'm rooting for Fran Brown in that situation. All right, next thing up. Steve Sarkisian made a couple comments this past week. It was a story with Chris Lowe at On3, and I just kind of wanted to give my thoughts on it real quick. So basically, Chris Lowe did an article on Texas's football program, talked to Steve Sarkisian, and some of the quotes that came out. The first one I want to talk about is that Steve said, "I would say for the first time here at Texas, we have top-level talent on both sides of the ball, and also we have depth behind them at each position." I'm kind of paraphrasing there. I didn't write the whole entire quote. But basically what he's saying is for the first time at Texas, he feels like he's got the best talent available. Now, one would say, well, duh, you paid for it, which is very true. They did pay a lot of money to get the talent they have. The Cam Coleman, the Hollywood, some others. Arch Manning was probably a big buck to play. I don't know the defensive roster off the top of my head, but I'm sure it is. They got Will Muschamp. Yes, you should have the talent across the board. Just looking on the outside in, looking at all the money you spent. But it's also, kind of putting his, stamping his, I don't know. I'm terrible with metaphors when I need to have them on the spot. But basically he's saying this is our year. He's saying we are loaded. And not only if one guy goes down, we've got the backups to handle it. And so that's just big stuff. And my thoughts on Texas right now, like I've said it on this show, like they should be good this year. And whenever I make predictions, I would assume I'll probably have Texas at least competing for the SEC championship. You don't want to be so fooled on what you saw last year, but because last year everybody was just assuming they were going to win it all. But then last year the offensive line wasn't as good. You don't foresee that happening because 2 years ago they were really good. They were one play away from being able to play for a national championship. Those things happen. So, coming into this year, you kind of just expect this culture, but then you realize there's a lot of things that are missing. And I just don't see that. There's no way that'll happen again. And with the way they've spent, as long as they can get out of week 2-0 against Ohio State, that's going to be a good look for them. And I just feel like they're going to have progressed. So he's basically saying this is the best team ever. He made comparisons to Alabama when he was there, when he was talking about Jerry Jeudy and Jalen Waddle and all these guys when they used to play against guys like Patrick Surtain and things like that. And so it's interesting that he's making all of these comparisons for his squad at Texas. Because, like I said, he's either putting his foot in his mouth or he's going to be the smartest man alive when we get to January next year. Like, Texas should be good. Texas should be they should be a playoff contender at the very least. Like, if they're not in the playoffs this year, I don't want to say he's going to get fired, but like, it's going to be crazy. Like, could Arch Manning go his entire college career, and which is only 2 years, depending on how good he does, which I'm assuming he's going to be good enough to go to the draft. Could we go 2 years of Arch Manning and no playoff? Like, that feels crazy to say. I don't think that's going to happen. I'm gonna agree with Steve Sarkisian and think that because he said that, he believes it, and I'm gonna believe him for right now with it. He also said something else about what I mentioned with the roster and how they paid a lot, and that's why he feels that way. He talked about NIL a little bit. Said something along the lines when asked, "You got to pay a lot of money to get into the game for a chance to win in college football," and he's totally right. Like, if you're not like, that's been talked about everywhere for the last couple of years. Like, if you're not paying the big bucks, if you're one of these smaller schools, like, it's just, you're going to get ripped from. And that's evident when in every sport. Like, even in college basketball, you're seeing it right now. That's so prevalent. Like, Georgia is getting like guys. They just went to the tournament, and they've got 3 of their best players just being gone because guess what? They're not a perennial basketball school, and there's other basketball schools like North Carolina's, Duke's, UConn's, like that. They're going to pay your guys a lot more money than you can. So I think it's interesting when another thing he says is that all schools are paying the premium if they're competing. So, like, yes, because like Indiana, you think Indiana wasn't paying a premium when they won national championship this past year? Yes, they were. They were 100% were. Maybe they didn't pay the exact amount of money that other teams paid, maybe like Texas Tech paid, but they're paying up there. Like, if you're in these top 20, top 40, it seems like everyone's paying at least a little bit of amount of money. He made another comparison and said there's no Dodgers in college football right now. There's no team that's just being a monopoly and is taking all of the talent, and whoever wants it, they'll just pay it, and that's it. Like, he's basically saying that everybody is paying the same amount of money for these players, and I believe it. Like, I some would say that, yeah, maybe they're paying a couple $1 million more, but like, I would be crazy to think that just because Kirby Smart keeps it on the down low, but I'd be crazy to think Georgia's not spending $15-20 million on a roster. Maybe more. I don't know. I don't know the ins and outs of that. I choose not to, but I do know Georgia's making people pay for their spring game. They're doing this whole glory thing where you can subscribe to find more, content that you should be able to just get for free. You used to always be able to get for free. So, like, they're doing this to be able to, like, he's saying that if you subscribe, we'll wear white jerseys or white helmets or something like that. Like, so it's happening everywhere. You see Kenny Dillingham, like, one of the guys who has said, like, I need more money. There was the UCLA basketball coach who said, I need $5 more million. Like, it's just, it is what it is. And so I think in terms of Sarkisian's comments, I think everything he's saying is pretty spot on. If you want to read more about it, Chris Lowe on 3, that's where I found it. But I think Steve Sarkisian is putting a lot of pressure on himself saying all this stuff, but I think maybe he just already knows the pressure's there, and he feels really confident. He probably knows what he's seeing, and he's got some of the best talent that he paid for, so he probably is loaded, like, at the end of the day. And I think Texas should be loaded as well. It shouldn't be that big of a surprise. I don't think anybody's going to come out here and be like, oh, no way, Texas is not going to be good this year, or, if they do say it, then they're just, maybe they're smarter than me, but I don't believe that. All right, that was all I had to talk about today. Appreciate you guys tuning in. A little bit of a shorter episode, kind of just running low on topics a lot of the time, but I do appreciate you guys tuning in. If you're watching live on YouTube, thank you again. If you're watching after, thank you again. Make sure you subscribe, follow on Instagram and TikTok. I would really appreciate it. If you're listening on podcast or Spotify, subscribe, like, comment, share, do whatever you can. I'll be back next Tuesday at 7 p.m. Until then, follow the accounts. Deep Shot out.